Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, 2024 Facility Insights, Lessons Learned and Winning Strategies. My name is Indira Farah from the ARC Facilities Marketing Department. Before I hand it over to our speaker, please note that the webinar is being recorded and you'll receive a link to the recording session in a follow-up email in the next day or so. Feel free to type your questions into the Q&A panel as you think of them, and we will address those at the end of the session today. Now I'm going to go ahead and introduce our speaker. David Trask is the National Director at ARC Facilities. He's also the host of the popular Facility Voices podcast, and he speaks at various industry events throughout the year. David travels across the country, meeting with facilities teams and across different industries, and he will talk more about that. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you to get things started.
Hey, thank you, Indira, and thanks everybody for joining me today. And I'm really excited to share some of the things that I've heard and seen around the country. You know, this year has been amazing. I've been fortunate enough to travel all over the country, even over into Hawaii, and I've met with multiple different organizations, different industries, different ways that they do business. I'm going to share a lot of those best practices and things that they're doing, especially those outside the box things that I've seen and been able to witness firsthand. And I love in our industry how creative people are. And it's just amazing to me that how far technology, how far the industry has come, even in the last 5 years. And, you know, I was fortunate enough to speak at a conference down in Phoenix earlier this year. And I asked the question of the audience. I said, raise your hand if you've used ChatGPT this year. About everybody raised their hand. I said, keep your hand up if you've used that type of thing in the last, 5 years ago. And almost everybody put their hand down. Well, that's just one technology. Well, think about the way technology's changed in our industry. You know, buildings are getting smarter. You know, people are relying more on mobile devices. They're walking around with everybody on your team's got a smartphone in their pocket. You know, you're walking around with a tablet in the field, or you're walking around with a laptop. Your team's come a long way. And I think the way we manage buildings is coming a long way too. And I'm going to share some of those best practices. But what it really comes down to is I've seen so many people that are starting to leverage smart building technologies, making, your buildings are getting smarter. Even the older buildings are getting smarter with the new technologies that you're installing, new equipment that you're installing in those buildings. I'm going to share a lot of that stuff today. So let's jump in, and I'm really going to hit 5 different verticals that I met with this year and share some of those best practices. So we're going to start with higher ed here. Some of the challenges at this institution where resources are stretched thin, and this is any industry. I mean, we've all seen it. They've got just a ton of paper. Well, they had a ton of paper. I'm going to show you how they address that. That's drawings. That's their closeouts. That's all those boxes or rolls of stuff they've got all over the place. Also, delays in getting equipment. You know, they've got equipment that goes down. What were the impacts on their bottom line? What were the impacts on their team and the way that they manage their buildings? The other thing is additional costs that they realize on projects due to supply chain issues and other things like that. The other thing is their ability to respond when something goes sideways, those emergencies that just happen, and we all see those. But also, this was a creative way that I thought was interesting, is they had people walking around with clipboards, and they were looking for ways to be able to not have that paper nightmare, not have those shredded up forms that they've got on a clipboard someplace and having to manually enter all that stuff another place. So some of the solutions they did were they were really looking for mobile. Again, their team's in the field. They're running around like crazy. Also, the ability to use forms on their phone, forms on those tablets or their laptops in the field. But also the challenge was mapped shutoffs, okay? Knowing where stuff was, gas, water, power, all the stuff to shut the building down or get it back up and running when something goes down. Also mechanical equipment. They've got stuff all over the place. Old buildings, new buildings, stuff moves, stuff's replaced, stuff's been decommissioned. Having accurate stuff in the field so that their team can access that wherever the heck they are. And then also their emergency equipment, having all that stuff mapped out. Well, the way they address that, and again, the results here is they felt like they were going from a reactive to more of a proactive maintenance approach. And he said, we're more on top of our maintenance today than we were in the past. And this is a shift in the way that they do their business and run their business in facilities. But they also realize it's a time savings. Guys aren't running back and forth from the field. They're not chasing their tails trying to find stuff to do their job. And he said it made them feel more efficient. They were getting more done. He said, I'm getting more hours out of my guys instead of those wasted hours. He called it windshield time. Them going back and forth from the field, jumping in the golf cart, jumping in the van, and running back to find the stuff they need to do their job. It also helped them to be better prepared for those emergency situations. But this was a big one, onboarding new technicians, because they went from it's a handful of guys knowing where stuff was to now everybody can see where everything is, even the new guy. And he said it was so impressive for him is to be able to have the new person start today and they know where every shutoff is. They know where all the mechanicals are. They know where all the emergency stuff are day one. The day they start, they're not having to shadow somebody all the time for 6 months to a year. Everybody just knows where everything is. I'll show you what some of that looked like. They shared a lot of their information with me. So let's jump in. And it was really came down to, did they know where their equipment was located? This is a snapshot of what that looked like for them. So all of their assets, floor to floor, all mapped out. Like, they're opening it up on their cell phone on the roof. They're in first floor in the mechanical room. Somebody calls and something's going sideways in another part of the building or another building altogether. Doesn't matter. They can click on the building, the floor, boom, here's all the stuff for that building. And then they were able to tap on it and see the stuff for that. That's huge. Or walk up to the unit, scan a QR code, and it pops up and it says, what belt I need. It says what filters I need. It also says when the last time a guy was out there. And it's not a work order. It's just, it bridges that gap between what the work order doesn't provide. And it's where is it and what is it? Okay, huge. But this was the challenge with not knowing, and then also not knowing where everything is, but more importantly, something goes down. Okay, they were running into challenges before where they weren't able to go out there and do all the PMs on stuff, okay, on a regular basis. They're down head count, okay? Well, this unit goes down, right? It goes down and never fails. It goes down on a Monday, middle of classes. This is what happens. It couldn't repair it, has to be replaced. So they order the new unit. They get a replacement unit on a trailer, comes in 4 days later. It costs $10,000 a month, and it took them 18 months before they got the new unit in. So do that math, $180,000 in rental fees. Not their fault. Things went sideways. Okay. But that's how quickly things can turn. And he kind of chalked it up to, we didn't have time to do all the maintenance on this thing. And sometimes things just break, right? But it's not just a replacement cost, meaning it costs 180 grand. It's time. It took 18 months to be able to get a comparable replacement unit in. Right. Some of those timelines are speeding up as obviously COVID was even worse, but they're starting to speed up, but they're still there, delays, and also additional costs associated with those replacement units. That's at 20 to 40% upcharge that they were even paying 5 years ago. But why that's important to maintain that equipment is, and these are just some industry stats here, these are some of the timelines on what the expected life expectancy is. Now, granted, this is just a snapshot, but again, you want to maximize the useful life of all of your equipment. And that means keeping up with it, maintaining it, doing PMs on that equipment, being able to understand when something's going sideways and do some of those predictive things. Okay. So again, some of those times, are creeping up on a lot of people. But again, here's some of the challenges and positive side of reducing those downtimes and doing those more preventative and predictive maintenance. It's early detection. When you guys are out there looking at stuff, you may catch that drip. You may catch that leak that's happening, and you can address it right then and there because you're out there more frequently. Targeted interventions helps you plan ahead. Also helps extend that lifespan of that equipment and helps reduce that downtime. But they're also doing this, and I thought this was really interesting. Remember those clipboards? All right. They got away from clipboards. So now they're walking around and the team can scan a QR code on a piece of equipment, or scan a QR code on a door jamb, right? Or scan a QR code on a mower or a tractor or a forklift. And it opens up an editable form that they can fill out live while they're there, even take pictures of that and attach it to that form and submit that to their boss for either approval or just to log it. They're doing this for fleet and ground equipment inspections. So every week they do an inspection on fleet and ground equipment, and they check all the different things that were associated with that particular device. It's a big deal. Now they're not filling out that piece of paper and running around, giving it back to the admin person to manually enter all this stuff. They save it, and it timestamps it with photos, if they do attach any, that they've got that logged as to what happened. Same thing with custodial. They're putting QR codes on custodial doors in all of their custodial closets that are for, when was this thing checked or this room checked? What'd you do in this room? But they're also doing it for supply orders. You scan a QR code, and it opens up a supply list, and they can check what they need. They need 4 gallons of this. They need 2 mops. They need these brooms, whatever the case may be. And then they hit submit. It goes to the person who orders those things. And again, no more paper. Love that. Okay. Really creative, outside the box way of improving their efficiency and getting more time back. So second vertical here is K through 12. Okay. They had a paper blizzard. Okay. Stuff all over the place. Equipment locations. You're starting to hear a theme here. Shut off locations, emergency equipment, preparedness for risk was a big challenge for them. Also, first responder access. And I'll share a couple of those stories. Vendor access. They've got a ton of different vendors. This school district in particular has about 80 different projects that they're working on, or 70 different projects that they're working on right now. Okay. Some of them are in-house projects, some of them are contractors, some of them they're building some ground up. Okay. But some of the solutions that they were looking for is all digital, mapped equipment, locations, okay, real-time condition monitoring, meaning they check stuff, they're looking for stuff, and they can find stuff, right? Improved emergency response. And also, again, mobile. Their guys and gals on their team are running around like crazy trying to find everything. Not anymore. They can find everything that they need quickly by pulling their phone out of their pocket. It's a big deal. But the results of that is now they can access their stuff 24/7. Right? They can also respond faster, which helps prevent some of that bigger damage and safeguarding some of those classrooms and the well-being of students, right? Building updates are ready within days. So they get a project completed. Out of all those projects, each one trickles in, it's updated. Everybody's looking at the same stuff. Everybody's able to access all that stuff right away. But also, again, all those new hires, starting to hear a theme here, new hires have access day one. It's a big one. So this is what they had. I took these photos, right? Paper all over the place, right? All these historical drawings, old blue lines, this old district. You got some new buildings. You got some buildings over 100 years old, right? Different phases, different wings. Every one of these roles represented a change to these buildings. So you can see all those cubbies, all those stick files, all those drawers, all those rolls all over the place. The problem was they couldn't find anything. They were just spending all this time digging, trying to roll out these drawings, and they finally would just give up and just go out in the field, right? Well, no more. All of their stuff's all in one spot, and it also shows all these color-coded things that you see here. All those are those roles. Okay. But it also is the role showing what was impacted by that change in the building, what areas. It's huge. Okay. This is full MEP. This isn't just a life safety drawing. This isn't just an architectural. This is full MEP sets. And they can see, okay, if I'm working on something in this part of the building, I've got these 3 sets. I don't have to go back into this plan room and figure out, out of these 50 rolls in here, which ones are that part of the building. No, there's 2. That's how fast they were able to update and really speed up their process for finding stuff. It's a big deal. I love that. But this is the other challenge, okay? Brand new person on the HVAC team, just started, right? Hadn't even been on the job for 2 weeks, right? Weekend, there's a rooftop unit on fire at one of their schools. The fire department rolls up to the building, calls the 911 call comes in. They roll up to the building. They call the on-call number for the school district. She's been on the job for 2 weeks. Rolls up there. She gets there in about 5 minutes. Rolls up to the building. They're not just going to start putting the fire out. It's live. It's electric. Okay, it's live. So this thing's running and it's burning. Right. She rolls up to the building, pulls her phone out of her pocket. And they said, we need to find the electrical panel. She pulls her phone out of her pocket and says, okay, yeah, it's in this room, unlocks the room, shows them a picture of the actual panel, says it's this one right here, this circuit right here. They go in there, kill the power. Room's filled with smoke. Okay. They go in there, kill the power, put the fire out. That's because she knew and been there 2 weeks, was able to see where that panel was for this unit. Right. That's how fast she was able to respond. She's been there for 2 weeks and could do that. That's a big deal. This building could have burned down, right? Again, it's all about responding, all about the team being able to respond when something goes sideways, even the new people. It's a huge, huge deal. But that's where, again, it came back down to all the shutoffs, all the equipment was mapped out. This is a great example of that. All the HVAC units, all the gas, water, power, hospitals, med gas, everything's in one spot. Everybody has to go to one spot to find it all. One single source. And that's instant access to their building information. That was a quote. They had instant access to their building stuff, building information. That's huge. Saves time. Time is money. All right. The longer it takes us to respond, the bigger the problem can become. So here's another story. Same school district. The facilities director, middle of the night, gets a call. On their 800 line, there's somebody broke into one of their schools, right? Facilities director takes the call, pulls his phone out of his, off his nightstand, goes to the school, circles on a floor plan that he's got on his phone and text messages it to the first responder who's standing in the doorway. Here's the reset panel. It's in this room right here. Sends them the entire floor plan for this school, right? I want to stress this to you, and I hope you all understand this, okay? First responders don't know your buildings, okay? They don't. My dad was a first responder for 50 years. He doesn't know what's on the other side of that front door. Is there a hallway? Is it an office? They don't know. So when you're talking about emergencies, or you're talking about, in this case, a school, if you're talking about something that's going sideways in a school, we've heard it all on TV. We've seen horror stories, right? You can get them what they need to know what's on the other side of that door in a couple seconds. That's huge. Okay. Time is not our friend when something goes sideways, especially in schools. Okay. When something's going sideways, they need to be able to respond, but respond intelligently and know what's on the other side of that door. Okay. But they were able to go into this school, turn off the alarm, and they could see where all of the exits were. They were able to clear the school and make sure that nothing else, no other damage was done. And there was thousands of dollars in damage were actually done by these vandals when they broke into the school. But again, it helped minimize that damage by police showing up quickly and being able to find all the stuff and clear the building. So again, the other industry is healthcare. Okay, their problem was a little bit different. Okay, it really came down to project closeout delays. They were running into a mess with trying to get all their project closeout docs. Also, building with new buildings, as everybody knows, you have a brand new building. That means your team doesn't know that building's brand new, right? But also defining what those pre-occupancy deliverables were. right? Before they hand you the keys, what's the expectation of that deliverable? What do you get, right? What they included was asset locations, similar to what the other ones were, but more importantly, before you take occupancy, because again, your team doesn't know that building. They're blind, right? But also those shut off locations, including isolations. Well, the solution they uncovered here, and I'll share a little bit about what that is they clearly define that project deliverable messaging. What's your expectation up front that you're setting for those vendors, for that GC, for your vendors to supply you that you get so you're not blind. And also doing some of that legwork up front, mapping out those mechanicals, mapping out the shutoffs, the emergency equipment before, and I cannot stress this enough, before you take occupancy. Because if you don't have this stuff before, you're not going to be any less blind a week from now. But if you have this done up front, now your team is walking in and knows where stuff is. It's just kind of like the new employees that I was mentioning before. You're walking into a new building knowing where your stuff is, right? Also, that QR code tagging. Cannot stress enough how great that is. Being able to scan a QR code on a ceiling grid before you start popping all the tiles to see the information about that unit. You can see what make, model, serial number. You can see what belts it takes. You can see all those details before you start popping grids, and then you can go grab that stuff and be able to find it. The other thing that is a big one, again, is that mobile, being able to find it in the field, floor to floor, building to building. Well, the results of what they uncovered and what they did was clearly defining those deliverables. So they got accurate information back quickly. All of that information quick. Improve their team efficiency. Hit the ground running. I mean, it's that simple. They hit the ground running. So when they took occupancy, they knew where stuff was. They could respond faster. And new buildings, obviously, takes a little bit to break them in. So things can go sideways a little bit. Balancing all the HVAC, all the different things associated with your building. You know, again, it's not, everybody thinks it's as easy as just flipping a switch on. We all know that's not true, right? Things happen, but also help them to be able to respond faster for not just those new things from the new building, but moving forward. The QR tagging, this is an interesting one. I'm going to share some photos of this. I thought this was great. It's how you tag your ceiling grid as well. But QR code tagging helps you to simplify that maintenance and gives you quick access to that info. But also you could real-time update this stuff on the fly in the field as things happen. You're standing in front of a unit, should be able to update it. You're standing in front of a unit and you're replacing a belt, take a picture of the belt, attach it to the equipment record, and now you know exactly what belt it is. But more importantly, so does the next guy or gal that's on your team that has to go fix it another time, right? You're not guessing what you need. You know what you need before you even get out there, okay? It's a big deal. So this is a sample asset list that I got from somebody, and this is from a contractor at the end of a project. This is just a sample, but again, missing a lot of stuff, right? Where is it? What is it? Model number, serial number, a lot of that stuff. And it's because they didn't put it in their specs that this is what you have to supply us at the end. We want everything detailed out, what it is, where is it, and more importantly, it's even install dates, you know, warranty information. But what is it? Where is it? But this is what they want. Filled out. Everything's there, all in one spot. Everything's together. Again, this is an Excel spreadsheet, but imagine having that imported in and mapped out and field verified. Okay. Again, mapped and field verified equipment, not just a list that they give you, verified, mapped out so everybody can see it floor to floor on the roof, the mezzanine level, the basement, every level, every room mapped out. They looked at that as a huge thing, okay, because something goes sideways, and this helps with their compliance too. They have all this stuff documented and mapped out before they even get going. It's a big one. But this is what a lot of places end up running into, right? Where's that unit? Well, look off to the right there, those dots. Okay, or where's that shut off? What's that red dot? What's that blue dot? Okay, where's the source of that? Or you get a blank grid like you see in the middle picture there. Or I even heard from one guy, he said, this is another hospital who said, oh, we just look for the stained ceiling tiles. I literally put my head in my hands and went, oh boy. But again, that's not a good way of doing business, right? You look for a ceiling tile, you're walking down a hallway that's got, 100 different ceiling, panels, and you're looking for that little tiny red dot. And even if you find the red dot, which panel do I pop? Am I going to be underneath a pan? Am I going to be, am I underneath a wiring, harness? What's up there? I have no idea. So I don't even know what panel to pop here, right? Let alone what stain tile. Okay, which one of those? There's 4 tiles around where that stain. Which one do I pop that's not underneath the unit? That's what a lot of folks are running into, because honestly, this was a standard, or if there is such a thing, a standard of what the deliverable was, because they didn't define it up front, right? So this is what they're doing now. This is awesome. Okay, so if you look here, the guy knows what panel to pop, right? He also has it clearly labeled on that panel grid, right? And this is a great thing that I thought was awesome. He's putting the label on the corner of the panel of the grid, but if you can read it when you're standing up, looking up, you know that it's the one either directly above you or the one right next to it that you have to pop. They're even putting little arrows, right, on some of these, but they can, again, scan that QR code before they even start popping anything, but they can see here's the ATU 2-1-7. They can see that's labeled. They also have their asset number. They also have a QR code they can scan before they even pop the grid, right? And they can see what they need before they get up there. Field verified, photos of it. That's huge. That's so much of a time savings. When I was out at another hospital earlier this year, I was walking around with a guy who'd been there for almost 28 years. And I said, which panel do we pop? Well, first of all, we had to get a lift. So we're out there with this lift. We spent 20 minutes trying to find the right panel to pop. He wasn't exactly sure where it was. There was like a Sharpie mark over here. There was another Sharpie mark over there. It's not his fault. He hasn't been up there in a long time, but the unit went down. So now he's got to get up there and figure out what he needs. He's blind. He had to pop the grid, then realized he went back to try to find the equipment or the filter, and as well as a belt he needed. They didn't have it in stock. So what if he would have been able to open it up and see exactly what was up there before he even popped the grid and say, okay, I need this one. Let me go to the shelf. Oh, I don't have this belt. I don't have this filter. So I can't go up there. I'm wasting all that time. You're hearing a theme here, time. And I kept hearing this from everybody I was meeting with is time. And time's not their friend. So it also was the ability to do ongoing updates in the field. There are guys who are walking around, with tablets. They're walking around documenting any additional stuff they found, but it was stuff that was important to them, right? I thought this was really great. They're documenting every incoming, outgoing water within this hospital. Again, all of those additional things that were important for them. They also went around, mapped out all their IT equipment, all those IT closets. They had custodial mapping out stuff at theirs. They had all of the ability to do all these additional things and outside the box things. But for them, it was really important. But being able to do all of that stuff on their phone, in the field, live, I just love that, because everybody, like I said, on your team and everybody else's team is walking around with a smartphone in their pocket. You may have given them some tablets, but again, it goes back to that theme, instant access to that stuff in the field, all of that. Okay, that's a smart building. Now, again, you can do this with old buildings, new buildings. I look at this as a way to pull those older buildings forward by documenting, knowing where all that stuff is. Now you've got all that stuff, even for your old buildings, all documented. That's a big deal. So another industry is airports. Okay, I was fortunate enough to go at an airport in the Northeast this year, and part of their challenge was, this is really unique to airports, is access. being able to get to the stuff they need. Now you've got TSA, you've got other areas that, and I'll share some of those stories. It was crazy, going in this door and out that door and down these floors and going into secure areas. But the other challenge was a lot of their stuff was kind of buried, hard to find. They just weren't able to find it, or it was hidden someplace, had these little secret squirrel ways to get up into areas. But even the tenured guys on the team didn't necessarily know where everything is. Think about it. An airport's got thousands of stuff all over the place, just like your buildings, right? But it's all over the place. And it's compounded because now you've got different security levels to get through certain areas to even get to it in the first place. So one of the challenges that they wanted to address was knowing where that stuff was, and all those also those pathways in which to get there. I call that the maze. Okay. Well, the solution was mapping it all out. Okay. Using it so they knew exactly where they needed to go, having door access levels marked so they knew they need to go in here, having photos of the actual rooms, the photos of the additional signage that says you can only go through if you have X, Y, and Z, but also filling those BMS gaps. All right. BMS, and I'll share a little bit of what they shared here in a little while, but also to enhance their access. So the staff can quickly find the way that they have, the path, the navigation path as they're going through the building, how they needed to get there. And again, new guys, old guys that have been there for a long time, they don't all know that you got to go through here and then you got to go through there and you got to go do this, you got to do that. So, but it allowed them to be able to troubleshoot some of those issues quickly. The results were more efficient. They figured this is a heck of a lot easier to be able to navigate through. So now my guys aren't guessing. They're not going out there, walking through this door and realizing, oh, crumb, I'm in a dead end, right? And that happens a lot with security levels. But it empowered their team to, and especially in their maintenance and custodial teams, to operate independently and streamlining their workflows, right? So again, call this the maze. So going through a door, calling the security, how do I get to this part? They also had to get on buses to go from terminal to terminal. So we had to go through different doorways to get out to these bus areas to go through there. They've got different signs on every door that says you can't go through here if you require an escort. They have day passes that get you through security. Again, you know, you've all been through security at an airport. You know, you can't take tools through there, and a lot of the tools through there. You also have key card access. You've got those different door access levels. There's some interesting other things I'll share in a minute with regards to going through a doorway and you're kind of locked. You don't know, you can't go back and forth. But also some of those door signs are out of date, right? So, and you got to understand their job's on the line. You go through a wrong door, it's a big deal. Okay. You get written up. Okay. You can lose your job if you do it multiple times going through here. And it's a problem because it's a maze for these guys. It's not the individual technician's fault, especially when the door signs are wrong. Okay. But they've also got those traps between doors. You've also got AOA, which is those buses to get from terminal to terminal. So those hidden assets also are, well, actually, let me go back here and share one quick story. So some of these are, again, they're escorting a vendor through a doorway, right? So it says that he can escort a vendor through this doorway. So we went through this doorway and the other door was down this hallway. We walked down to that down the hallway to that door. He wasn't allowed to escort somebody through that next door. So we turn around. We head back to the same door we just walked through, right? Well, that door that we just walked through now has a sign on the other side of the door that says he can't escort somebody through that door. We're stuck. Okay. So he's on the phone calling somebody. He's saying, listen, we went through this door. It says you can escort somebody. We came back. We're trying to go through the exact same door and we can't. That's the traps. Okay. Not his fault. He didn't know. But again, those are the ways that they're navigating with super detailed security levels. But they've also got hidden stuff all over the place. These are the risers. They've got multiple riser systems all over the place. Some of them are pneumatic, some of them are the manual, but they're all over the place. But the new guy in this case had to figure out how to drain these No one showed him. It's not his fault. It's not anybody's fault, but he didn't know how to do it. So he's manually figuring out how to do this. Do I turn this just this way? Do I move this way? I'm watching my gauges. Okay. What he was able to do is record a video of how to do it to help the next guy and attached it to the location pin for this individual riser. That's a big deal. Next man up doesn't have to reinvent a wheel, but he attached a little short video of how to do that. That's awesome. All right. And he was able to do that in this case on his iPad. The other thing is hidden panels. They had them all over the place. These little funky staircases that go up that was in a closet, that door, the lead electrician never even been through that door, right? And again, never had to work on anything over there. They're up in these little mezzanine levels all over the place. We walk through, I can't tell you how many doors, and my knee jerk when I'm walking through is I look behind the door and I see panels all the time. And I start to listen how many times I hear, I didn't know that was there. Well, I'm with an electrician and he didn't know that was there. So who else didn't know that was there? They're also in hallways or mechanical rooms. IDF closets oftentimes have a panel. They're hidden in these special funky little areas that only a handful of people know where they are. So think about the panels in your buildings. Think about the little hidden things that, somebody's put a bookcase in front of. Well, when something's going sideways, do you know where that panel is? Do you know where all of your panels are? How about the water shutoffs? Same thing. Do you know where all of those things are? And when you do find one, can you document that? Or is it just stuck in your head? Well, if it's in your head, it doesn't help anybody else. Everybody should be on the same page. But this is a funny one. I had no idea there were panels and doors behind a lot of these snack things in the stores. These things were all over the place, right? These are the power for this particular store. It's in a door. There's a door hidden behind these snacks that are hanging from this door. I had no idea. Well, as I travel all the time, I'm now noticing these things. They're all over the place. They're tucked away in a little closet. They're in an office back behind these areas, or they're simply behind the snacks themselves, right? Little panels. I've seen fire alarm panels back there. I've seen electrical panels back there. I saw a riser behind one of these. It's all that hidden stuff all over the place. And again, there's just a lot of it. So the way that they address this is mapping all this stuff up. So mapping all those shutoffs, having photos of the panel, having photos of the breakers, having photos of the name of the panel. All of it's searchable. So in their case, they've got little labels on every single outlet. Okay, all those outlets are showing, what circuit it is, what panel is it. Well, now they can search for the panel name when they're standing in front of the outlet, and it'll pull up on a plan on a floor plan showing them exactly what room it is. Now they can make their path how to get there. All right. It's a big deal. Work their route, how to get to that place. And they can utilize it all by pinning doors, pinning the panels, pinning all these different stuff. But everybody has access to this, even the new guy. That's huge. Such a huge time savings for them is to be able to navigate all throughout this, millions of square feet, this airport, and it's all over the place. Okay. Additional key information was what they uncovered was they have a BMS system, but the BMS system is more of a general, where is it? It doesn't show you, well, listen, it's not in this room, it's in the room next to it. They also have dedicated people that are for specific spaces. In this case, there's airlines that have their own facilities people. They have some of their own custodial people. So it's a mixed bag. Well, they're able to share this with those people as well. But the more important thing with their BMS system here is it just told them a general location, not even what floor. Is it on the first floor and it services above it, or does it service this area over here? It just gave them a general area, and they didn't have any of that stuff mapped out. Well, now they do. And there were no photos or even areas or rooms attached to those equipment records that they had. But it could tell them when the system was running. Is it running efficiently or not? It's a big one. So last one I've got here is mixed use. Okay, this is some buildings down in San Francisco. They're right on the water. And his challenge was he's got a very small team. He's got a couple of guys. And the challenges were he's got tenants. And when I say mixed use, he's got hundreds of tenants in all these suites. So think of it as a giant multi-story warehouse, old warehouse that's been converted into mixed use. He's got everybody from tailors to hair salons to restaurants on the first floor. Going up, he's got some manufacturing. He's even got some kimchi places that are making kimchi and all these other things all throughout their building. Well, his challenge was move in, move out for him. So having the ability to see what the place looked like before the tenant moved in, and then also being able to take inventory of what that looked like when they move out. Also, fire extinguisher replacements and also his electrical meters. They're all over the place. So think about hundreds of tenants. Every tenant's got a meter. Every tenant's got individual fire extinguishers in their sites. Where are they? Are they under a cabinet? Are they hanging on the wall? It was kind of a mixed mess of stuff. And again, he's relying on tenants because they were responsible for the extinguisher part. But how he addresses that, I'll show you in a minute. But also being able to identify and track water heaters. Okay. He calls those little pot water heaters, the small ones, he calls those ticking time bombs, and they break all the time and leak all the time. Well, that impacts other tenants. When you've got hundreds of tenants and you've got one that busts on the third floor or fourth floor and it starts leaking, it can go all the way to the first floor, affecting all of those tenant spaces as well. So knowing where those were and also what were they, that was a big challenge for him because they've got all different years, make, models, all these different things, okay? And they're all over the place. Some of them are above bathrooms, some of them are in closets. They're all over, okay? Well, the solution was simplifying that move in, move out, having access to those forms. Again, he was paper. So taking this and going digital. So when he's walking through all these hundreds of tenants and he's doing all these different forms, no, he just pulls his phone out of his pocket, scans a QR code in the door jamb, and opens up a form for that client, that customer, that tenant. It also helped him to improve his tasks in his organizations. Okay. He's more organized. He has stuff tied to the space, tied to the tenant in that particular space. And you can see all the stuff for that space all in one spot. That was a big deal. Also, had quick access when something goes sideways. And his was all about tenant response. When tenants call and they've got a problem, water heater's not working or electrical's out or whatever, they're hot, cold, okay? It's being able to respond better, faster. And we all have, I call them customers, okay? His case is tenants. Well, you have customers, you have patients, you have doctors, you have teachers, whatever you're in, whatever your vertical, they're your customers, and you want to make sure you can respond faster and make sure you get everything up and running and make them happy. Well, the result was he looked at this as a better process. It helped him be more efficient. He's a small crew, but to be able to respond faster to those things that are happening with his tenants, help reduce that downtime, reduce those delays in him being able to respond when something is going sideways, but it also helped him to create accurate records, having just full visibility to historical stuff that happened with that client or that customer or that tenant, and also be able to respond and have accurate information when something does go sideways. And here's how he did that. So he created these move in, move out forms. So again, move in or move out for his multiple buildings, but be able to document what it looked like, the condition of it, put comments in. Was it damaged? But more importantly, he can take photos of the space before and the space after. And then he could put all of his notes in here and save it. So when somebody moves in, he's documenting what it looked like before they moved in and documenting what it looked like after. Where this saved his bacon was he had a tenant that spilled paint all over the floor. Well, he had before photos, and now he has after photos showing what happened. Well, there goes their deposit or a portion of their deposit. But again, documenting everything about the space. And now he's got that whole historical record showing that information. Fire extinguisher inspections. Okay. Look at all those extinguishers on that plan. Well, every one of those little rooms there, every one of those little doors there, that's a different tenant. Hundreds of them in this building, hundreds and hundreds of these in this building. But now he can see exactly where they are, what wall they're in. He's got photos attached to each one. But he also created a fire extinguisher form here. So he can document when he does his annual walks, and he can see what's the status of this unit, what's the status of the extinguisher, and he can document that, and again, including photos of the tags. Everything's there. He can access it quickly. The other challenge is, remember those pot water heaters, okay? Documenting where all those were. Look at all those on that plan to the left. But he can click on one of them and open up and see the specifics about that. He can see the label. He knows what make, model, serial number. He can see when it was installed. He can see where is it? Is it above ceiling? Multiple photos of where is it? What is it? Okay. And have access to that stuff. He's doing this while he's sitting in his office. Somebody calls and says, "Hey, I'm tenant, XYZ. I'm in suite 201. I'm having trouble with my water heater." Before he even gets out of his chair, he can pull up and see, click on the one for that unit, see exactly which device it was, and be able to go out and either order one, see if he can repair it himself, or if it was one that was even scheduled to be replaced before he even gets out of his office. It's a big deal, because the old way was he has to get out of his chair, run up there, try and figure out what it is, run back, see if he can order one, see if he's got one in the warehouse, he's going to swap it out. Okay. Again, see that time? His building is almost 1.5 million square feet. It's not just going in the next office. It's 15 minutes there, 15, 20 minutes back. All right. That's just a day in the life. When you've got hundreds of tenants, he gets those calls all the time. 20, 30, 40, 50 a day. Well, think about that time. Like I just said, some of them take 5-10 minutes to get there and back. Others are clear across in another building. Okay. But more importantly, there's only enough hours in the day. He's got a small team. So he looked at that as an efficiency thing. He can get the information before he even gets out there. But more importantly, too, even when he's out there and somebody else calls with an emergency, he can see all of the other locations while he's in the field on his phone, and then go right there, not have to go back to his office and then go back out to the next fire. All right. It's a big deal. Saves time. So some of the lessons learned, and this is a big one, okay, is everybody's resources are stretched thin. Everybody's running tight. Everybody's down head count. And a lot of them are using some outdated stuff. They're using those clipboards. They don't have stuff documented where it is. And it's a time-consuming process. I've said this over and over again, time. But it causes delays when something's going sideways. And that could be just anything. It could be a water leak. It could be a fire. It could be, an HVAC unit goes down. Or anything associated with updating and managing your building and being able to respond. Okay. But complex navigation of equipment, forms, and access management is a problem. Right. And that was at all of these. The solution was mobile, being able to find stuff on my phone, wherever the heck I'm at. That didn't matter if it was equipment, shutoffs, forms, all the different stuff, but all of it documented. Where is it? What is it? And how do I get there? Also, QR codes. Universally, everybody loves QR codes. It's just easy. You've all scanned a QR code when you go into a restaurant and it pulls up the menu, or especially during COVID, we all did that kind of stuff. But you're able to do that. Most packaging on even your products has a QR code on it. You can scan it. Shoot, the other day I was watching TV and I've got YouTube TV, and a little QR code came up and it said, "Hey, you want more information on this drug?" You could scan the QR code and it takes you to their website and it's a video or something. Right? That's how fast we can get access to information. And what we're talking about here is instant access using technologies that you use every day. It's your phone, right? It's your tablet. It's your laptop, whatever it is. You can access everything instantly, quickly, but it's technology that supports your team. Okay. I want you to think about it like this. Technology is a tool for your team. It's a tool, right? It's not replacing them. It's telling them what they might need, making suggestions of what they might need. It's also telling them that historical stuff before they even go out there. Saves time, right? Especially for those new team members. But the results that I keep hearing is time. Time savings gives me more hours for my team. They can get more stuff done when they can find information for my building, information to do their job. But it helps them be more efficient, streamlines those processes, reduces that downtime. responding faster, being able to respond when something goes sideways quickly, and being able to make intelligent decisions, right? Impacts on the team are, again, providing modern tools, modern ways for your team to increase their performance, and honestly, not get rip their hair out trying to find stuff and be unhappy. They can make their lives easier by being able to not have to even remember where everything is, right? It's all documented and everybody can see that stuff. So, Indira, let's open it up to some questions.
All right, thanks, David. Let's go ahead and dive in. First question I have here is, what is the software you were showing that does the mapping?
Well, I showed our software, but essentially we map out all the stuff for those particular clients. And it was interesting because, you don't know what you don't know. And I encourage people to look around what they're doing, what's working, what's not working, and and really lean into that because a lot of systems they just don't work for what you're trying to do today. Your goals may have changed, but our overall goal for all of us in the industry is to work smarter, not harder. And I think a lot of the tools that are out there are just a challenge. And I'm not knocking any one of them. I mean, you may have some that are working for you, but I always say keep your eyes open and look for those ones that your team can access the stuff in the field. Okay, and that's what I was showing.
Okay, thank you. And another question here, how long does it take to map all of this stuff? It seems like a lot of work and I have limited resources.
It really depends on your site. Obviously, huge sites, big sites. I mean, we've done millions of square feet. I can only speak for us, millions and millions of square feet. You do it in a phased approach, depending on how big your sites are. I've done million square feet, depending on what the client needed, million square feet in 90 days. We've done some of them sooner. We've done some of them that took a little bit longer, depending on how many sites there were all over the place. We've done it. It just really depends. But turnkey from start to finish, it's inside of 90 days,
Okay. I
typically.
did have a few questions asking to see more of the software. I put a link in the chat for anybody who wants to request a meeting or a demo to see more about
Sure.
it. Another
Yeah,
question I have.
happy to talk to you.
Yep, thanks, David. Another question here is, we have a lot of guys walking around with clipboards, and it's a huge pet peeve of mine. Is there a limit on the number of forms and who creates them if all I have is a paper copy?
There are two things that are a pet peeve for me too: a clipboard and that little notebook that you see in somebody's little spiral notebook that's in somebody's shirt pocket. Because I look at it this way: if it's written down on a piece of paper or it's in a spiral notebook, it's not accessible by everybody. Okay. Um, there is in our system, there's no limit to the number of forms, and we create them for you. So if you've got I don't even care if I've got some clients that have scratched it out on a napkin and send it over. This is what I'm looking for. This is an idea. We create those and upload them into the system. And there's unlimited number of forms. Usually I'll get clients that'll send me a Word doc or a Excel spreadsheet, and we just convert it. It's whatever they're using today. Others they'll scan it in and send it over to me from a paper copy they've got, and we recreate it and upload it into the system. It's unlimited forms.
Awesome. All right, another question here. My buildings are always changing, and I have about 80 active small and large projects going on at my hospital any given year. Is there a fee for every update that we do?
No, not in our system anyway. No, not at all. As long as you're not adding square footage to the scope, or adding a module to the scope, we share what those modules look like if you want to have a call. But yeah, as long as you're doing everything within the same footprint of what's in scope, no, it's unlimited.
All right, and another question here. We have locations in multiple states. Can I see
Mhm.
all the sites or can I limit who can access specific sites?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm a firm believer you want to turn people on to the site that they're supposed to see. That includes contractors too. So in our system, yeah, you can provide access at different access levels out to the individuals who are in that are supposed to see a particular site. So for instance, say you've got an on-site maintenance team in one particular hospital, maybe it's a hospital CEP or something like that, we can turn them on and off to that. Also, your contractors. Okay. So if a contractor is working with you for, I don't know, 18 months or 2 years on a particular building, you can give that contractor access to all your documentation for that building. So that's all your drawings for the building, all that legacy historical drawing sets. They can have access through that time frame for just those specific buildings they're working on.
All right. I did get questions asking if the recording will be available. Yes, we did record this, and I'll make sure that everybody gets the recording. So any other questions that we didn't get to, we will reach out individually. I will have the questions with me. I will get those. I'll get someone in touch with you to answer your questions. David, those are all the questions that I have. I appreciate your presentation today. And thank you so much for everybody who spent their time with us today listening in on our final webinar of the year, but we do hope to see everybody for our 2025 webinars. David, anything else before we wrap up?
No, just thank you everybody for joining us today. And if you have any questions, you can see the links here. Reach out to everybody, and we're happy to chat with you more about what you're running into.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.